Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel for a quick guide on what I consider the best way to kill the Ferocious Bear in V Rising. Now we'll quickly cover where this boss can be found, what it rewards you with for killing it, and of course the best abilities and equipment to use for this fight. If you find this guide useful and maybe get a suggestion or two to take away into your own battle with the Ferocious Bear, do consider dropping the video a like and subscribing to the channel for more V Rising guides, tips, and gameplay. Alright, so let's get into it. First, a little introduction to the Ferocious Bear. This boss can be found on the far east side of Farbane Woods, residing in a large cave. To access this area, you have to walk around on the south side to get round to the main entrance. And if you manage to successfully kill the Ferocious Bear, she drops you the Bear Form ability that will allow you to destroy certain objects that were previously unbreakable, regenerate health faster, and you will have better sun resistance. The Ferocious Bear is level 36, so for the fight in this video, I ensured that myself and anyone participating in this fight was around level 36 or under. And lastly, if you weren't aware already, every boss in V Rising scales to the amount of players in the area. So in my first fights with the Ferocious Bear, we quickly discovered that the problem in this fight wasn't necessarily its abilities, but the basic attacks that it usually follows them with. After casting its ground slam ability, the bear will follow up with a couple of basic attacks before the next one, and sometimes it enters an enraged state where it attacks faster and orchestrates a charge. Now, all of the abilities that it tends to use will also afflict you with a snare if you are hit, which is going to make it even harder to dodge those basic attacks. After getting wiped a couple of times when trying this as a duo, we decided it was time for a change of tact. The problem with the bear's basic attacks are that you will need a dodge, a shield, or a movement speed increase to either avoid the attack or negate the damage. And if you've just used your dodge for the bear's ground slam, well, those things are going to hit you. Now, the first time we successfully beat this boss was as a duo, and don't worry, I'll go over solo strategy here shortly and show a fight where we completed it solo. Now, this time around we made some changes. Firstly, my weapon of choice was the dual axes, for one simple reason. One of the attacks on this weapon provides you with a 25% movement speed increase when you hit your target, which gives you enough speed to actually dodge the bear's basic attacks without the use of a dodge. And on top of that, I'd be using the Chaos Travel ability to give myself 2 dodges instead of 1, complete with some decoys that would sometimes cause the bear to attack them instead of me. Now that's fantastic, but it was situational at best, and I'd need some mitigation for the times where I did inevitably have to soak a hit or two. So with this in mind, my duo partner picked up Blood Aegis, which would provide me with a hefty shield that would soak damage worth 200% of his spell power. My next choice was Chaos Volley to keep my distance when applying some damage, and my final ability choice was Blood Right, which allowed me to counter an attack and negate all of its damage in a situation where I couldn't avoid it. Now this time round we were much more successful and managed to kill the Ferocious Bear with relative ease, and I think the key for this one really is using your dodge to its maximum effect. Use it for those parts of the fight between where it casts abilities wherever possible, so those decoys can take a hit or two off you, and wherever that's not possible, that's where Blood Right's counter or Blood Aegis's shield comes in to soak a hit or two for you. And where that's not possible, use the Axe's Q ability, and the movement speed increase might just be enough to step back out of the attack radius of those basic attacks. If you're taking on the Ferocious Bear solo, the main change I'd make here is to give yourself the Blood Aegis over the Blood Right ability. Blood Aegis will soak most of those basic attacks in between the bear's abilities, so you can keep up the offensive pressure without needing to worry too much about dodging every attack. Now that said, Chaos Dodge still comes in handy more than once, and I was using the Chaos Volley ability for keeping up that damage at range between her attacks, and found that to be the best option for me during this fight. You can see some of this footage that I was trying to save my shield for use with her basic attacks to soak up that damage, and it works pretty well here, so I definitely recommend that as a must-have. But really, Chaos Volley could be swapped for any range to damage ability, or even Blood Rage for some attack speed increase if you preferred to get up close and personal. Obviously, if you'd like to, you can always come back to this boss a little later when you have better gear, and you'll find it much easier, so don't be disheartened if you struggle with it at first. This boss doesn't keep you from making steps forward in your progression, so if you want to come back with iron weapons and hollow fang armor, that's completely fine. Nothing is stopping you from doing that. So that's it from me in this quick guide to the Ferocious Bear fight. Hopefully you find the tactics I've mentioned here to be useful for your own battle with her, and if you find a better way to beat this boss, do let me know in the comments. And a special thank you to all of my patrons for supporting the channel and playing on our new V Rising Patreon server. If you're interested in playing on our servers, you can find a link to the Patreon in the description, or search for The Pond in your server browser for our public server. Thanks guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.